Hey, thank you very much for joining in here at Revisiting the Mania. I'm Carlos.
And I'm Maria.
And with us, we have a longtime friend of ours, Roger. And I have the wrong thing up here. There we go. You're not Wayne, you are Roger.
Definitely not Wayne. Definitely not
Yeah,
Wayne.
so
That's for sure.
thank you for bearing with us here and joining us tonight, Roger. And today we're watching WrestleMania 12.
12.
Now, this is taking place at the Anaheim Ducks Pond Arena.
Yeah, so we just have a few questions before we get into WrestleMania 12. Raj, we got to ask you, what got you into wrestling or watching wrestling?
What got me into wrestling, man? Just watching it. I think just like all of us, just stumbling upon it one day and probably seeing Hulk Hogan.
What?
Watching Hulk Hogan on the screen.
Right.
Uh, just like everybody else, amazed at seeing such a huge human being. The charisma that he had. And seeing him uh, on a screen was just something that just, you know, when you're little and you see a human being that big, you're impressed, and you want to see him as much as possible. So one of the first WrestleManias that I saw was because of him, in WrestleMania 3, him against
Okay.
Andre the Giant.
Wow.
What else do you remember about that WrestleMania? Is it just that match, or do you remember anything else?
Man, I would have to go back to look at it, but WrestleMania 3, just looking at it and trying to remember it now off the top of my head, really the only thing that I remember, uh, Savage, Steamboats, I think were on
Right.
the card. Uh, Piper, I know was on the card.
Yeah, Piper and Adrian
Um,
Adonis.
Junkyard Dog, I
Yes.
know was on the card. The a young Bret Hitman Hart was on the show as well.
Yeah. He was
And
finally able to wrestle there. He wasn't in the Royal Rumble like in WrestleMania 2.
let's not forget King Kong Bundy
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
was
I
also on the
mean,
card.
awesome wrestler.
Yeah, and we just had him back at WrestleMania 10. So,
So my
Raj,
memories of WrestleMania 3 are very
it's very ingrained in your wrestling
right, but
background.
they're there.
Yeah. So we have our first comments here from our Facebook live chat. Our friend Raymond likes to point out that you look like Wayne.
You're good.
So maybe I should have kept that up. Another comment here from our Facebook live stream. He watched Bret and he still likes wrestling.
Wow, the roasting.
There's
We
your
Yes, I
first
believe
zinger.
that
started.
was gonna get to my question, Raj. I know
There's the
that
first
you are a
zinger of the
fan of
year.
Bret Hart. Is Bret Hart still your favorite wrestler after all these years?
After all these years, yes,
Wow.
He's the
because
best there
he
was, the
lived up
best there is.
Ever
he lived
was.
up to that, didn't he? I mean, he lived up to being the best there ever was, the best there ever is, and the best there ever will be. So he
Oh,
definitely
I
lived
love
up
to
to that.
hear it.
We'll have to get into it here. So one more thing here before we get started into our WrestleMania rewatch. Uh, do you recall what was the last wrestling event that you either saw on TV or in person?
The last one that I know got me hyped up, and I
Mm-hmm.
know was Hogan against The Rock. That was the last one that
Okay.
I was
That
hyped about.
had you like, I
Right.
need to watch this. I need to go
Yeah.
to a bar, go to a friend's house, go order it myself, and
And from what
whatever.
I
Okay.
remember, the match, it started off pretty slow, but they built it up pretty well, and it ended
Oh.
up being a good match.
Okay, another comment here from our Facebook. Bret
Oh,
wasn't even the
oh
best
my
wrestler in his
god.
family.
That's so
Another zinger.
rude. He was a
Yeah,
good
me
wrestler.
and Raymond maintained that Owen Hart was probably gonna be ending up as the best of the Hearts
I do not mind
if he
Brett at
didn't have that
all.
tragic fall.
He sounds like a solid guy.
Yeah.
So with that, we are revisiting WrestleMania 12, and
Hmm.
like Carlos mentioned, it was in Arrowhead Pond of Anaheim. What a name! now the Honda Center in Anaheim, California.
Mm-hmm.
So it took place not in April per usual. It actually took place on March 31st of 1996.
Right.
We had a little over 18,000 people in attendance. I think they clocked in at 18,853 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, but what are we talking? We also want to talk about pay-per-view.
Right.
So pay-per-view, I feel like I'm saying that weird, was over 290,000 across the United States. So when you calculate that into dollars, that's over $8 million in revenue alone just for pay-per-view purchases.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, and now we barely get that kind of people bunched into a United Center over here in Chicago. Around 18,000, 20,000, I think, is the max that it can get into. So, and now upcoming in WrestleMania 40, Vince is going to be or shouldn't be saying Vince anymore because he's not really in charge of the company. It's Endeavor is now putting in that show at the Philadelphia Eagles football stadium.
That's
So
gonna be
that's
the
going to
best
be
one?
more than 18,000 that he got
Wow.
in this pay-per-view.
So what's weird to me about this WrestleMania is that no one's saying, I mean, for WrestleMania 3, WrestleMania 1 through what, 11 or 12, we've had somebody singing either the national anthem, the Canadian national anthem, but we had no one sing.
Yeah,
for
there was
this
no one
one.
singing America the Beautiful. There was no one singing the Star Spangled Banner. I think, was it last WrestleMania we had the Special Olympics lady sing the national anthem? So
We did.
it was straight into the point, I guess you can say. And we get Vince McMahon coming back as our play-by-play guy. Why?
He was so
Jerry.
he was so hyper, by the way, when he was doing his intros at the beginning. I noticed.
Well, it's not only that, but like I think for the past 2 pay-per-views, and I haven't watched any of the old like Wrestling Superstars or Saturday Night's Main Event or whatever ones he would have been doing it, but he always gives you the 1, 2, oh, this is it. Oh, he got him, and then you're like, no, he didn't get him. I don't know why you keep saying that. So
Okay, so we weren't thrilled about
no, we're
McMahon
not.
doing the
We're not thrilled with
commentary.
Vince is coming back and doing the play-by-play.
I mean, I agree. The first commentaries that we had were pretty either a little vulgar, a little exciting, pretty funny. So
Yeah.
with that, that takes us to
The first match, which we have Owen Hart, British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, and Big Vader, part of the Cornette camp, versus Ahmed Johnson, making his WrestleMania debut like Vader, and Jake the Snake Roberts with Yokozuna, who has Mr. Fuji in his corner. This is mainly for Yokozuna to get revenge. If Team Yokozuna wins, he will get 5 minutes alone in the ring with Jim Cornette.
So I do have a question because
Yes.
we've been talking about the wrestlers that Raj is interested in. So were you a fan of Jake the Snake?
I was. I just wish he had, barring the substances that he was taking, he might have had a better career.
Yeah.
Had it not been because of that. So it's a
You
shame
can
that
say that in like a bunch of wrestlers, but yeah, that is one of those things. Just like I think you could say that about the British Bulldog too, because he didn't have any problems with like those type of harmful substances. It was more of performance enhancing
Ooh.
type of things that he couldn't get off of and things like that. So Owen Hart, you're a fan of, if I remember, Maria?
I am a fan of Owen.
British Bulldog?
Yeah, a fan.
What about Vader? This is your first introduction to Vader.
It is I'm actually rooting for Vader and Ahmed Johnson.
Ahmed Johnson, yeah.
I mean, who are you rooting for?
I think with this one, I probably would have been rooting for. I don't remember this match, but looking at it now, and I think because I've been on such an Owen kick, I was rooting for Owen when I seen this like match unfolding and getting it started.
Well, I'm surprised that we started with like a 6-man match, a 6-person tag team match, as the introduction to this WrestleMania. And then the stipulation was if Yokozuna's team won, he would receive 5 minutes in the ring with Jim Cornette, who is the manager of Camp Cornette. Do you guys know about that? Like,
It's just like the name of his stable.
okay,
So instead of being like like the Hart Foundation, that was technically the name of the tag team and the stable of the Hart family.
right.
Because after Jim Neidhart left, you still got Owen, and then you had the British Bulldog who married into that family. So when they all got together, technically they were the Hart Foundation.
Wow.
This now we have Camp Cornette, which is Cornette having Yokozuna, Owen Hart, Vader. He had Yokozuna at one time, and but I think Cornette had costed him the match at Survivor Series or the Royal Rumble, and they had a disagreement falling out.
So, do you think that Owen was considered the heart of the family?
No, to me, he was the king of hearts.
Yeah.
By the way, the payoff was Yokozuna getting 5 minutes with Cornette,
Right.
and we didn't get it. As fans, we're this is why we paid to see the pay per view,
You're right.
and
Right, Raj.
we didn't get the payoff.
Well,
right.
yeah.
This was one of the few pay per views where McMahon did not deliver.
I mean, it becomes a trend later on that he doesn't give you a lot of payoffs where you think like the good guy should finally get the comeuppance on the heel, and it doesn't happen. And that's something that's consistent not only back then but now. And another comment by our viewer here: Vader was amazing. Ahmed was garbage.
Oh,
I'm
opinions.
sad that you bring that up because I think while we were rewatching this, Raymond, my wife was actually impressed with some of the moves that Ahmed Johnson made in this match, and I actually managed to watch this pay per view twice, just to make sure that I
Yeah.
was not seeing things. But Ahmed Johnson had some pretty good moves for a big man, and
And he actually did get some pops during the pay per view.
yeah,
but
he did.
He did not play to the audience that was there.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that hurt him throughout his career.
Well, yeah, it turns out like later on, he ends up leaving like WWE from
Mhm.
what I was looking at. What happens is there's kind of a mixed story from him, but he was saying that his sister was having cancer issues and he never brought it up with
Oh.
Vince, and he just said he had to leave.
Right.
And so she would always watch him, and he didn't want her. There was a storyline that was coming up that he was gonna get beat and hung after a match, and he didn't want his sister to see it. So he supposedly got a phone call from his someone watching his sister, and said that his sister was gonna last. He didn't tell anybody. He just told Vince he had to leave. And then when Vince confronted him, he's like, "Why didn't you tell me that it was your sister?" He's like, "Well, I don't want to put my burdens on anyone else," and blah blah blah. And then from what I've seen in a later interview, Ahmed Johnson changes the story. He says that uh, yeah, his sister having cancer was true,
Mhm.
but he also felt that because of her like the time of her passing,
Okay.
it was also a sign because he noticed that that whole locker room or the whole like vibe in WWE was a racist one,
Wow.
and he felt like he wouldn't have gotten his fair shake there. So something just told him to leave once he left to go take care of his sister.
I mean, when you know, right? Or if you have a feeling. Raymond says he was an unsafe worker.
Okay,
But the vibe of this WrestleMania was just like very different from
Mhm.
all previous WrestleManias that I
Mhm.
noticed. So a couple of cool things that I remember are that we see Bulldog and Hart stomp Yokozuna, which is
yeah,
like a pretty cool move. Also, Jake and Yoko were very cool to see in this match. I was really happy to see Jake again.
hmm
But did you guys think that they looked a little gassed towards the end of this match?
Well, Jake definitely looked gassed. That's why he's wearing like this like combination like robe jacket type of thing over his body. Like when we seen him wrestling, there was always like it was just the trunks, like the pants.
Okay. Oh, well, I
And
mean, he's a little bit older in this
yeah,
match too, right?
yeah, but like I'm not sure. Like I did not look in his timeline. And oh, Raymond's very proud of you. Look at Maria using sparkling gold. That's awesome. She's getting there, Raymond. She's getting there. So,
I'm just kind of curious. I know who I was rooting for. We hear who Carlos is rooting for. Raj, who were you rooting for during this match?
You know what? I focus on the small things. So the small things that bothered me of this match was the fact that we had 6 intros, six introductions. You know, we had Vader, we
Mhm.
had Yokozuna. Why can't they all come out at the same time? You know, and we
Well,
wasted all this time on these intros when we could have spent that time on the anthems, like you said at the beginning. You know, giving the
Wow.
WrestleMania the prestige that it deserved, and we didn't
oh,
get it
look at
Yes.
Roger.
I was like,
because
I can't
we
even high
wasted
five you, but I want to.
we
Raj
wasted
wants to
six
make
intros.
WrestleMania great again.
I agree with
6 entrance
him.
musics were played during this time,
Yeah,
and
I
no
really,
America the Beautiful.
yep.
yeah,
Raj,
That's
I
upsetting.
agree with you. I feel like we got robbed of like a really good introduction this WrestleMania. So
That's
I was
upsetting.
yeah.
just really upset.
They're in Hollywood or they're in California. It's about an hour, maybe an hour and a half drive from LA. Vince could have
You
like
couldn't have
ponied up
Mickey
some
Mouse
money.
singing America the
Yeah,
Beautiful. You
I
couldn't pull
mean,
out something like
I
that.
guess we can have him. I don't know if he
You
wants,
could have anyone.
but
Like we
yes,
could
I
have had
agree.
anyone like to like, but we had no one. So
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. So with that, that takes us
Well, hold
to,
on.
oh,
So,
am I skipping ahead to
well,
what?
we got to figure out. So,
Oh, would
Roger,
we rewatch?
like, do you like the way this match finishes? Because it looked like there's some confusion,
I don't
and
like the way it finished because I did not
yeah,
get
you wanted
I
Cornette to get his
wanted
comeuppance.
Yokozuna in
Yeah,
there with Jim Cornette. I
yeah.
wanted to see him put that face, his buttocks right in Cornette's face, and I didn't get it.
Oh, okay.
So I was
You wanted him
disappointed.
to continue that Ano Wai tradition of putting rubber butts in people's
Yep.
faces.
You had to
Where did
give it
I
to us. Vince teased us that it might happen, and it didn't happen. So
where did
very
I get
disappointing.
see what wrestler did I see get smashed with the butt recently?
You probably saw me watching AEW and you saw like Tony Storm or somebody
Yeah,
doing
that's
that.
what it was.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's a lot.
So, Maria, were you okay?
Actually, I this is an okay match for
Okay.
me. It's not a favorite, and I actually wouldn't recommend that you rewatch it unless you're interested in kind of seeing the trajectory of Jake the Snake, Yoko, or any of the other wrestlers here.
Mm-hmm.
Then sure, but it wasn't one of my favorite matches.
Yeah. I actually do recommend that you watch this match. It's not a favorite match of
Wow.
mine, but I like the work that gets done here by the double team work by Owen and the British Bulldog Davy Boy.
Okay.
They do a great job as far as like doing all of those double team tricks in
Okay.
there, like isolating, distracting the ref, getting those moves done while the ref is distracted.
Mhm.
Like for anybody that wants to know about tag teams or is looking into wrestling and getting into a tag team, this is also one of those. This is also a good match that I like to point out that Jim Cornette, even though he's a bad guy, heel manager,
Okay.
he actually is helping out with the psychology of the match. When the good guy
Mm.
is on the floor, trying to recover, he's actually pounding the mat, and that's bringing the crowd into cheering for the good guy to get up and get the tag. And he does that a couple of times. Even Ahmed Johnson gets in on it, even though he's not involved with the match. Like he's like waiting for the tag. But I like that. That's one of the things I did like for Ahmed Johnson to being in his first from WrestleMania, but being aware that you always have to get the crowd into it. The crowd was pretty dead, and this isn't like the only match the crowd is pretty dead. I'd like to point out. That's like pretty much this whole pay per view. The crowd is dead.
Those are some of those subtle things, like you mentioned. Those are some of the subtle things that managers do, and that's why they're so important. You know, you think, well, why are these guys even part of the show? Well, that's exactly why, because they're there to hype up,
Yeah,
get the audience into the match. I mean, Bobby the Brain Heenan was so good at that,
He really was.
bringing the
Yeah.
audience into the match.
yeah.
They are so
And he
underrated.
also knew when it was time for him to take his comeuppance. Jim Cornette did not. So even though like the match didn't give us like the payoff we wanted as an audience, I kind of like that it should be revisited. I recommend that at least you watch it just so you get like a grasp or comprehension. Like if you're like barely getting into wrestling or you want to get into wrestling, as far as like how a tag team psychologically match should go psychologically. I think this is a good one, a good example of this.
And
Mhm.
also, by the way, we spend so much time again on these entrance music that we had no time to see Owen Hart and Davey Boy Smith give us more ring time.
Oh yeah, we definitely needed that. And speaking of ring music, what did you think about Owen's
I'm
music?
over it, by the way.
You're over it? You're over? Okay.
That's
We'll
the last
move
time
on
I
then.
bring up the entrance music.
No, I was just gonna say because I had brought up last time that Owens doesn't have like a really
He
good
did.
entrance music song. It sounded like the music they played on Saved by the Bell when they were at the Max.
That's what he said. Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to hear what your opinion on that was.
Too much
I mean,
entrance
we're here
music.
for the introduction.
Yeah.
Give us less entrance music. Give us more technical wrestling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the excitement.
Right. So with this one, that takes us to our next match, which is our Hollywood Backlot Brawl match between the interim company president, Rowdy Piper, he's back,
Yes.
versus Goldust with Marlena.
Right.
Now, Maria,
Okay.
this is your first introduction to Goldust, but you are aware of Goldust as you have seen him as he's been paired up with his brother later on in these years.
Yeah, like in more recent wrestling matches,
Mhm.
they have. So this match or this brawl was a total of 16 minutes and 47 seconds.
Mhm.
And like you said, I am shaken to see a young Dust.
Yeah, Goldust.
Goldust.
Yeah, it's Goldust
Dustin.
because his name is Dustin.
Okay. And then also I love the beginning of the match with Roddy and Goldust fighting.
Mhm.
So like you said, the match started in the back lot and Goldust hit Piper with a car,
Yeah, he runs him over in his gold Cadillac.
which according to Piper's book is real.
Yeah, he actually this was filmed 2 weeks before WrestleMania. So this was all pre-filmed.
And I feel like they said it was like done in one take. So
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was done in one take, but
And I
it would make sense.
think Roddy also broke his hand during this.
Mhm.
So it was very spur of the moment.
And to answer our Facebook Live viewer, yes, Raymond, Dustin did end up getting exposed at the end of this match. When they come back after the Undertaker versus Diesel match.
So I'm curious, do we go to the next match since that's what they did during this WrestleMania?
I mean, we can go on to this after this, but I just want to know: did you actually think that was happening in Hollywood? Because you did not know it was pre-taped.
No, at the time I was watching it, I didn't realize that it was pre-taped. What I did find out is that one, it was pre-taped, and two, when they were actually wrestling during the match during WrestleMania, they wore the same exact clothes that they wore that day, and it wasn't washed. So it was pretty stinky.
Oh.
So let's just think about that for 2 seconds.
Yeah, especially since Goldust gets hosed down.
Yeah.
After he gets hit onto a craft table and to a dumpster a couple of times.
There's a lot going on there. So
By the way, this was supposed to be Razor versus Goldust, and it ended up
being
Rowdy Piper last minute because Vince suspended Razor for quote failing a drug test. But that's a different story.
Yeah, but you're right.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Roger.
Yeah.
And no, Raymond, I did not enjoy seeing Goldust. Someone forgot to silence their phone.
And so then
Maria, how dare you?
How dare I?
So then we get Doc Hendricks after this cuts away when Roddy Piper gets away in his white Bronco.
Okay.
And we get Doc Hendricks, who's also known as Michael P.S. Hayes, the Fabulous Freebirds, who's still working for the company to this day.
Wow.
And if I have read my information correctly, I believe he is the one that's currently in charge of the Bloodline storyline.
What?
That's going
with
on
the Usos?
with yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure if I'm wrong, Raymond will go ahead and point that out to me. So
by the way, why can't we just call him Michael Hayes in WWE? His name is Michael. His first name is Michael.
I don't know why they call him Doc Hendricks at this point. But
little things that bother me. That's another one.
Roger came with his get off my lawn rants.
I'm here for it.
He was waiting for it. I love it.
I'm here for the details.
Yeah. So this is Stone Cold Steve Austin making his WrestleMania debut as the $1 Million Champion with Ted DiBiase in his corner versus another wrestler making his WrestleMania debut, Savio Vega of the Boricuas. Oh, they trademarked that name. Okay.
Doc. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So, I mean, Savio Vega, this is his first WrestleMania
Yeah.
debut, which is pretty cool because I was unfamiliar with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he, like you mentioned, I was excited to see Stone Cold Steve Austin,
Mm-hmm.
and the action starts right away.
It does.
We see a side slam on Stone Cold by Vega,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, damn, that's cool. So I enjoyed this match.
So who were you rooting for?
I was actually rooting for Stone Cold.
Now, were you rooting for Stone Cold even though I sent you that picture of him earlier in his career with his blonde hair?
Yes, I was still rooting for Stone Cold.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Refresh my memory. Was this his first pay-per-view as Stone Cold?
Wasn't this his
Yes.
first
Right?
debut for
He had
WrestleMania?
gotten rid of
No.
the ringmaster gimmick at this
No,
point,
this
right?
wasn't the ringmaster gimmick.
This
It was
is his
him.
first pay-per-view as Stone Cold, correct?
I believe it's the first pay-per-view, or if not, it's like they had one of those in your houses. Because this is when the in your house starts making the rotation. But this is his first WrestleMania, and his first WrestleMania debut. Not only the company as a whole, either as Stunning Steve, the Ringmaster Steve. This is Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's Stone Cold that we get. So,
Do you pronounce it Kwang or Quang?
Savio was once a masked wrestler named Kwang that was implied to be Asian.
Wow.
I mean, well, there's another one that's currently gimmicked as to be Hispanic that's in the LWO, and he's of Filipino descent.
Well,
I believe right
I
now.
feel like we're a little. I don't wanna.
I
I don't
know.
want to get the heat. But during this match, it actually gets interrupted because the car chase is still happening with Roddy and Goldust.
Yeah, and that's my whole problem with this match. Like, I wanted to just watch it. This match goes 10 minutes and 5 seconds, but like every few minutes or seconds, we would get oh, I have Rowdy Piper calling me, and Rowdy, where are you right now? And then Rowdy Piper will be calling, and then we'd have this fake stock footage that everyone had after the OJ chase.
Yes,
2 years ago.
Goldust driving a Bronco.
No, Rowdy Piper was driving.
Oh, Roddy, sorry.
Yeah, he's chasing him and,
down the freeway.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things that happen in this match, but it's yeah, I can't really enjoy it because then I have Vince in my ear telling me something that's happening that's not in this match.
If they were trying to be funny with this OJ comparison, it failed miserably.
Yeah, and then it just brings up to the thing that they had before the match, one of those dark matches or all brawl-in matches where we had Vince being petty that the Macho Man and Hulk Hogan had left.
Right.
So they had staged a match between the Huckster and the Nacho Man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pre-taped match where you get a geriatric Hulk Hogan and a geriatric Nacho Man going out there and having a match. Sami Zayn was a fake luchador, and I still wanted him to come back as that luchador, but apparently I think that luchador El Generico died in a fire, saving kids from a fire at an orphanage.
I do have a question. Are you all fans of Stone Cold or?
On this one, I believe I did not care when I'm thinking back to
Little Carlos,
teenage Carlos. Is teenage Carlos that's watching this. So
yeah, we were just being introduced to what was to become Stone Cold.
Yeah, you do see those.
This was still to me the ringmaster because DiBiase was right next to him. So
yeah,
once DiBiase's out of the picture, Stone Cold becomes Stone Cold.
And you get those like little hints of him becoming Stone Cold because he starts like doing those like kicks and things like that. And this guy Raymond was a fan of when he was stunning Steve Austin. And I guess Raymond was a big fan of blonde hair. The Hollywood Blondes was a great tag team. No, okay, I knew it before I even seen that comment. I was like, Raymond's a big fan of blondes.
So I mean, he is a Taylor Swift fan. So.
Oh, that is true. Taylor, please leave Travis Kelce and make my friend Raymond a very happy man.
So with that,
Taylor Swift, please.
You've had enough. I know she's been like in the news. She's been everywhere reporting on her and maybe her possible. But Swifties don't come for us. That's just us making some comments.
And by the way, this match was 10 minutes for a reason. Stone Cold is not the type of person, a wrestler, that can give us a long match. So,
Wow.
10 minutes.
Wow.
I mean, let's be honest, he's not Bret Hart.
Oh.
You mean
He's not going to give you. You would never see Stone Cold in an Iron Man match. Let's put it that way.
Wow.
So
No
you're
offense to
saying
Stone Cold, he was awesome. He's
You're
just
awesome.
not,
Like he's awesome, but the stamina. Could we
he's
ever
just
see him in a
not gonna
60-minute
give you a
match?
good wrestling match.
Not quite.
you know who we could see is Mr. WrestleMania, HBK Shawn Michaels.
Well, he was in an Iron Man 60
I
minute
know.
match. Okay.
Pillman was great, unlike his son. Raymond's referring back to the Hollywood Blondes. And one more, you're right. He's not Bret. He wore ring gear with manly colors.
Oh.
Oh.
So, I mean, did we have any other comments?
Did you like the way this match finished?
I thought the match was a good match. I would definitely recommend people rewatch it.
Oh, this is one of your recommended matches. Okay.
Yeah, I would say rewatch this match. Hearing and reading about Savio, he's a pretty decent wrestler, wrestling for quite a long time with different, what do you call them?
Gimmicks?
No, stables.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I was gonna call them houses. I came up with like 3 different names before I'm like, it's stables.
Yeah, Savio Vega actually is very good storyteller, but not for himself.
Yeah.
But he was able to help Goldust kind of refine his gimmick a little bit more from when I was reading. He helped him out kind of like find his his understanding of Goldust. When Goldust was presented to him by Vince, Goldust was Dustin wasn't very happy about the character that Vince was offering to him, and he was kind of like not feeling it. But Savio Vega, I guess through his travels and probably I'm not sure. I've never been to Puerto Rico, but I can't see that it's so much dissimilar from like I'm not sure if Roger still watches the Mexican luchas.
But like the wrestling styles?
Yeah, but the wrestling styles, like if they have exoticos, like the luchas have exoticos, and I think that's probably what Savio Vega kind of told Goldust to lean into, where the exoticos are more of those flamboyant, pushing the androgynous, like being more out there, kind of like putting out those homosexual type of vibes towards the other wrestlers, to play those mind games.
Right.
And when they had a show, Savio was actually encouraging Goldust to go out there and do it because they were actually fighting in, I believe, it's Madison Square Garden. Okay. And we all know that New York has a lot of Hispanics, in particular Puerto Ricans, that make up most of the Latino population there. So Savio was kind of egging them on to come out and be more flamboyant and to be more outward with his androgyny and things like that. And he said that that match that he had with Savio Vega was the most heat, the most like passionate like response that he's ever got as being a Goldust character. And I believe that's because of the whole history with Hispanics and people like that have that history where they watch wrestling from those particular backgrounds with exoticos, that pushes that boundary where they don't like it because it's not something that they believe is natural and things like that.
Wow.
Thank you, Raymond, for confirming there's tons of Puerto Ricans and Dominicans in New York City.
So with that, does that
By the way, just one last thing on this match.
Yeah.
Just so we can
wrap up with match
Austin is just so weird because Austin has the dreamer hold on.
Yeah, he's kind of adopting the $1 million dream. Yeah.
And I couldn't understand what the point of that was. Are you trying to make yourself a heel because that didn't work? Or are you trying to push Savio Vega as this huge baby face?
I think it's a little bit of both.
It didn't work for me either way.
He's supposed to be like kind of like a protege of the $1 Million Man. Like the $1 Million Man before this, he had the corporation. I'm not sure if he still has it because like I didn't see them walking. They usually used to walk together. Like Camp Cornette, IRS you had with him, Mr. Perfect with him, and then other guys. And now it's just Ted DiBiase with Stone Cold, and Stone Cold is the $1 Million champion. So he has the $1 Million belt. So I think if I'm remembering this, he's like his protege. He's like managing him. He's trying to like mold him and things like that. So you're supposed to be thinking that Stone Cold is the heel in this match.
Mm-hmm.
You see that because of the moves that when Ted DiBiase actually distracts the ref, he grabs the $1 Million belt, he sets it near the ring. Stone Cold goes for the belt, he hits him with it, not once but twice. And then he gets he puts the $1 Million Dream, and he gets like the arm drop test that Savio Vega fails, and he loses the match due to losing consciousness, quote unquote. So my favorite part, I just wanted to point out in this match, one last thing for sure this time, is that Ted DiBiase wanted Stone Cold to win so bad, he grabbed somebody's drink when Tim White, the referee that's in this match, he grabs somebody's drink and he pours it on Tim White to wake him up, so the ref can go ahead and call the match.
That's true. I remember he went into you could see him walk into the audience and grab a beverage from somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Raymond is confirming that I am correct. Thank you, Raymond. So the next match we have we get an interview with Mr. Perfect, who has Diesel, who's summarizing his interactions with The Undertaker. I just want to point out that Mr. Perfect was a very, very good interviewer.
Okay.
Because not only is he able to, get the information he needed from Diesel and to help Diesel like put himself over with the audience and selling this match, but he doesn't even need his earpiece in the whole time. So this whole time,
are we getting football?
Yeah, I don't know how that started. But he doesn't even have his earpiece. That's how good Mr. Perfect is. He doesn't even need to hear Vince or Jerry the King Lawler
What
to
was he
finish that
listening
interview.
to?
I don't know.
Nothing?
He's
Yeah.
just he's got perfect hearing, so he didn't need the earpiece.
Must be. Okay, so that takes us to match 4.
Yeah, we have the Ultimate Warrior returning after a long hiatus.
Yeah, so the Ultimate Warrior
versus another wrestler making his WrestleMania debut, Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Triple H.
Yes, Triple H, the King of Kings, as he's known later. The Game, the Cerebral Assassin.
Singles match at 1 minute and 39 seconds. So, like you said, the Ultimate Warrior returns to the company after a 4-year hiatus.
Yes.
I'm really excited to see him, as just about as excited when CM Punk finally returned to wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was too short of a match, but definitely worth watching at 1 minute and 39 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rooting for the Ultimate. Of course, really excited to see him. Raj, who were you rooting for?
Man, at this point, you're so tired of the Ultimate Warrior's
really
backstage antics that you're like, you want him to get pummeled, and unfortunately, it didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen.
Only 1 minute 39.
Yeah, we get let's see, Triple H goes on the offensive.
This is not the same Ultimate Warrior from WrestleMania 6, by the way. This is a totally different Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, well, according to Raymond, he looks like he's 40 pounds smaller than his last appearance. He wonders why, and I can pretty much say it's probably because of some performance enhancers he's no longer taking. But what do you think? Triple H hits like the pedigree, which is his finisher, right away, and it doesn't phase the Ultimate Warrior. And I guess the only thing I can take from here is that this is a way that you Triple H showed that this is the way that you do a quick squash match and make the guy look good, because that's pretty much what Hunter did. And go ahead.
Oh no, I was just like wondering, why were you done seeing the Ultimate Warrior? Is it because you've seen him so much, or?
He's just done with the backstage antics, he said.
Oh, okay, you're done with the backstage.
And
antics.
this was something where him getting the win in 1:39. This was clearly something that was done probably just because Vince wanted to keep him happy.
Yeah.
There's no other explanation why the Ultimate Warrior kicks from the pedigree. It's, you know, like you mentioned, Triple H's signature move, and he immediately gets up. This is just something Vince did to keep the Ultimate Warrior happy, and how unfortunate
I think you're right. And
that
part
he
of the
let
deal,
himself, you know, have that he let the Ultimate Warrior have this much power. It's a shame.
But you have to also consider it's not like that much power that the Ultimate Warrior has, because like eventually he's gone again,
right?
and then he resurfaces in WCW. If it's not in '97, it's either early '98.
Well, I mean, part of the deal included him promoting his new comic book. So it was called Destruity, and the Warrior explained it as a truce between destiny and reality. So, I mean, that was part of the thing as far as like him coming into the short match.
Yeah. So
what would you say?
Were you happy with this? I know you were a fan of the Warrior.
I am. So I would say, look, it's 1:39. Rewatch it.
You recommended some people rewatch it?
Yeah, I recommend that you rewatch it. It's 1:39. You've probably, like I say, done less or done worse in 1:39. So worth a rewatch. What about you guys?
No.
You're like, no, not worth a rewatch.
No, I mean,
you're like, skip past it.
Yeah, because it's like
fast forward right.
If you're nostalgic for the Ultimate Warrior and want to see just a few minutes of him.
Yeah, if you want to see him get one last win over somebody that he really didn't deserve it, then yeah, go ahead and watch this match. But the only thing I can point out that was good, which I already did, is the way Hunter is able to take the bumps and make the Ultimate Warrior look good, even though he wasn't able to go longer than 1:30 or 1:40.
So then we get an introduction. I don't know if this is a vignette to a Mark Morrow.
Yeah, this is like his interview that Tom Pettingill calls a Mark Morrow, like bone marrow or Mauro. But yeah, we get the Wild Man, Mark Morrow, making his WrestleMania debut in an interview. During this WrestleMania interview, he runs into Triple H, who's very upset and blames Sable, who was his valet at the time, for the loss.
And Meryl's wife, right?
Yes, it was his in real life wife, Sable, at the time of Mark Merrill, who ends up being the current wife of Brock Lesnar.
Wow.
Thank you, Raymond, for backing me up on that one. So this ends up being like a little fight at the end, I guess, to continue a feud between Brock Lesnar and Mark Merrill. So, what did you think about the Wild Man? I know you had pointed out a couple of tidbits about him.
Mark Morrow, the only thing I thought were that I thought my eyebrows were wild, but that guy's eyebrows were striking. And that's really all I have about him. What about you, Raj?
Yeah, there's not much there. That stash is pretty. Well, it was probably pretty cool at the time, but that wouldn't fly today.
Okay, all right, and then
he was married to Sable, so he must have been doing something right.
Right?
Yeah, at one point, right? So the next match we have is The Undertaker with Paul Bearer. That word's always weird to me.
Paul Bearer.
Yeah, versus Diesel.
Big sexy.
Yeah, Big Daddy cool. Goes 16 minutes and 46 seconds. I agree, Nate. Raymond, he should have never dropped the Johnny B. Bad gimmick. So this was finally, I think, something that I believe that I had mentioned at the previous WrestleMania, where I was like, Diesel's a very big guy. Why
Mhm.
was he fighting Shawn? Why didn't he fight the Undertaker? Because the Undertaker was on that card and he faced King Kong Bundy.
Right.
We finally get it. Only Diesel is no longer champion.
Mhm.
He ended up dropping the belt on losing to Bret Hart at the previous Survivor Series pay-per-view back in 1995.
Right. Well, I mean, I also just want to take a minute to note the audience. I always like to take a look at the audience, how
Mm-hmm.
they're reacting, what they like, what they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that the audience is taking pictures with like real cameras. And when I say real cameras instead of phones, like people had their like,
Point and click
yeah,
cameras
they're
is what
point
they
and
call
click
them now.
cameras. So that was pretty cool. And I'm rooting for the Undertaker, and I love Paul Bearer's reactions during this match.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? Who are you rooting for?
I think on this one I would have been rooting for the Undertaker. Just because you know, Diesel, he had beat Shawn to the belt, very pro HBK, and I wanted him to Undertaker to take care of business and get Diesel out of here. What about you, Raj?
The only thing that comes to mind here is that Diesel was just Kevin Nash is just so cocky, that during the match, he's there nonchalant, hanging out by the ropes while the Undertaker's on the floor. This is how cocky this guy was, and I believe this was like how long after this did him and Razor Ramon leave? I don't think it was too far after
Well,
this
Razor leaves
pay-per-view
first,
that they left.
I believe, if I remember correctly. Uh, the Diesel had was in talks on getting his contract renewed, but Vince did not want to match the monetary, the money that WCW was offering. So he already had like matches already set up. Since he was not gonna be re-signing or renewing his contract, he already knew in advance that these were his matches where he was not gonna be getting the win.
I think
Right,
it's
and
just
he showed that he didn't care. By the way, just
Oh yeah, yeah,
the
you could
way
tell
he was.
there are moments here, like Roger points out, and you could probably say that it's part of the match psychology because of the character of the Undertaker,
mhm,
where we've all been conditioned to be like, well, the Undertaker takes this finisher, and then he kind of like shakes it off, and then he sits up, and he rises again, and
well, I like that Raymond mentioned. So the primary reason they took the belt from Diesel was that ratings were low when he was champion.
yes,
Watching this match and seeing him wrestle, I'm not that excited about seeing him wrestle.
hmm
His moves, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they weren't that smooth during this match. So
yeah, and then Raymond did confirm that Hall went back to WCW in May '96, so. Yeah, and then Diesel joins them either after SummerSlam or like around August, September over there.
Yeah, so it all
Uh,
makes sense because even going back to his interview with Mr. Perfect, I mean, you could tell he was like super cocky during the interview. Like, really, you can't get into character for your match for your big
no, he
time
was
match
ready. He was
against the
he
Undertaker.
yeah he had what some people like to call graduation goggles,
Yeah,
where you're gonna graduate, you're moving on, and you just don't care, so you're just doing whatever the heck you want.
very
yeah, no.
unprofessional on his part.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, yeah.
So did you like the finish to this match, Maria?
I mean, I was fine with this match. This wasn't a match that I would say rewatch. I thought
Mm-hmm.
it was okay. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought that as far as booking wise, it went that way because of we talked about the politics of Diesel and Vince's contract negotiations not going the way they were supposed to in Vince's eyes, and we can't have in Vince's mind, you can't have a talent that's leaving your company,
Hmm.
go to another company either with the belt or like looking good.
Right.
So
And I think you're only right. There was a lot of movement during this time. So a
mhm.
lot of people, either contracts not getting renewed or going to the WCW. So it seems like there was a little bit of trouble.
Right. And
Like,
Raymond is chiming in as a recommendation that some younger fans should watch this match
ooh.
just to see when the Undertaker could move. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, he still does like a lot of his high flying moves. He does the rope walk really well. He actually attempts to do two flying lariats in this match. One Diesel actually ducks when he's near the ropes, and Undertaker has to bail, and he almost flies out of the ring. And he what surprised me here is that Diesel was actually able to jackknife power bomb the Undertaker, but the last pay per view he was unable to jackknife power bomb uh, King Kong Bundy. So in WrestleMania 10, yeah, because he faced Shawn in the previous one. So that was a surprise to me that he was
Hmm.
able to get that done with someone as just as tall as the Undertaker.
Right.
And what about you, Raj? You just are just mad and want to move on to the main event?
Yeah, this was one of those where I feel like they wasted so much time on Diesel, especially before the pay per view. Uh, they were trying to build him up versus Shawn Michaels, and that
Mm-hmm.
just never materialized, unfortunately, because he left. So they just
Yeah.
kind of wasted some time there.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, Shawn and Diesel did get those matches in, but it just never like they were such good friends that I guess they didn't want to have any professional animosity towards each other.
Hmm.
So they would either like when one would have the belt, then the other one would need help, and then that other person would show up, and then whatever professional storyline beef they had, they would get over it, and then they would contend for the tag team champions, and then they would win the belts, and then they would have a rift, and then they would have a match again for a belt, and eventually it starts getting old.
Right. So does that are we wrapped with that?
No,
Or
because this takes us to Todd Pettingill, who's in the production truck, who's looking at the cameras, and who does he see? He sees Goldust's gold Cadillac pulling into the pond at Anaheim.
we finally get the wrap up with Roddy Piper?
Yeah, and Roddy Piper's coming behind him in his white Bronco like he's OJ Simpson chasing somebody down. And we get him looking for Goldust, who's being escorted by his manager and real wife at this time, Marlena, through trying to get him away from him. While Roddy Piper is making his way towards the ring, because apparently that's where Marlena suggested Goldust should hide. Out of all the places, he should just go hide in the ring.
Go
They'll
hide in
never
the
look for
ring.
him there.
He'll never find
And then
you.
we see Diesel coming out from the ramp or from the entranceway through gorilla position. If you pause this at the right time, you'll actually see that there is a drawing
A gorilla.
of a monkey. It's not a
Oh
gorilla,
no.
but it's a monkey and it says gorilla, which is the gorilla position where Gorilla Monsoon would stand before they gave him like a desk and a chair for him to sit as he supervised the events
He
as
Wow.
they
was
were happening.
president, if I remember correctly, right? For
Yes, he was the president
President.
after Roddy Piper loses or wins his match because Roddy Piper was interim because I believe Jack Tunney in the storyline had to step down or was retiring, and they just
Hmm.
never filled his um, position. And Piper took it on as an interim quote unquote uh, title because Vince needed ratings, and Roddy Piper was a guy that Vince could always depend on to come through for him. And so then after we get this
So
kind of match
what do you think about
happening
the wrap up? I
of
mean,
this match.
yeah, we saw it in parts going through the
Yeah.
full WrestleMania. Do you think it was well done? Do you think we should have never
No,
seen it?
I think if you were gonna have this match, you should have just had it there at the stadium. But I think as Roger had pointed out earlier, they wanted to be edgy and they wanted to make fun of the whole OJ Simpson
Poor taste.
chase
Okay.
that he had. And that's why they used that footage of Roddy Piper chasing Goldust from a Hollywood backlot to the pond.
And Raj, what do you think about it?
Yeah, do one or the other. Either have it all in the parking lot the way you had it,
Right.
or have it in the ring. One or the other. It just I don't know. They tried to drag it out for part of the pay-per-view,
Mm-hmm.
and for me it just didn't work that well.
I
Yeah,
agree.
this and it ended up distracting another match. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, it
That
ended
match
up
with Diesel
distracting
and the Undertaker.
the Stone Cold
Oh, Stone Cold.
Stone Cold and Savio Vega match because Vince had to pay attention like 3 or 4 times to the random phone calls that Roddy Piper for some reason was able to call him. I don't know what type of cell phone service Roddy Piper had. I wonder if it was like that big brick phone that Zach Morris had in Saved by the Bell. But
My grandpa had a phone like that when they first came out.
they,
Yeah, he was cool before everybody's like, "What are you doing?" Grandpa had a cell phone.
By the
so
way, was Piper's signature move hitting in the jewels, or did he have another move? Because he did it quite a few times, and it seemed like it just
I,
seemed like that was his
I
signature
think it's
move.
one of those things that had to happen during this match because even though there wasn't this wasn't really like it had no end. Like there was no bell, there was no referee. I believe Goldust was the Intercontinental Champion, so it wasn't for a belt. This was just mainly because Goldust is putting out his vibes out there, and he's vibing on Roddy Piper. And Piper's like, "Nah, bro, I'm not having that. I can't do this."
Did Piper even win? By the way, I'm
I
not sure.
mean, if you call some undressing somebody and just having them run away in shame as winning, sure, he won.
Wow.
Give
So
us
with
a one,
that,
two, three, or give us some
Yeah,
that was
type
a
of
good
exactly.
finishing move.
Yeah.
So
So this brings us to
match 6.
match 6, or is it? Yeah, match 6 because there was 2 dark matches and there was 8 total. This takes us to the main event, the Iron Man match. Now, this is one of my favorite matches,
Spoiler.
and the reason for it is because I believe that this is a very good textbook match on how to like keep a match going
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much protect the talent
Right.
where they're not exhausted and they're not doing any type of moves that will cause too much harm to them.
Okay. So
Uh,
our 6th match is Shawn Michaels with Jose Lothario
yes,
and Bret Hart,
by
somebody's
himself.
favorite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um and it's a 60-minute Iron Man match for the WWF Championship.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first televised Iron match in the company history.
Yes.
And I'm rooting, unlike Raj, for Shawn Michaels.
Mr. WrestleMania. Yes, this household is a team of Mr. WrestleMania.
But Bret Hart's moves are pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I thought they did a great job together. I mean, 60 minutes. Just when you think it's gonna stop, no, it just keeps going.
Yeah. I mean, so let's first of all point this out that there is a very great entrance here. We have Jose Lothario come out
Mm-hmm.
and Jerry Lawler selling you that Lothario is actually coming out here to surrender, that Shawn Michaels can't make it, but instead he just gets on the bottom turnbuckle and points up, and who's on top of the stadium but Shawn Michaels zip lining down into the crowd. What did you think about the entrance, Raj?
I felt
Would
like they
Bret Hart
gave
ever make that entrance?
I felt like they gave the ending away by this prestigious entrance of Shawn Michaels. Like, there's
Okay.
no way that he's gonna lose the match now when he's got an entrance like this. I thought there was just a little bit of an unfortunate entrance. You know, they just gave too much away with this.
Well, I
Okay.
thought you guys were going to talk about seeing Brett's father and Classy Fred Glassy in the
You
audience.
mean Classy Freddy Blassie?
Glassy Freddy.
Classy.
Say that 3 times fast.
Classy Freddy Blassie. Classy Freddy Blassie. Classy Freddy Blassie.
Wow, what a show off. Okay.
Very good
So
entrance, though. Not to
you
say
thought
Yeah.
it was a
anything
really
wrong.
good entrance? I thought it was super cool too.
Yeah, what did Bret Hart come out to?
We don't
His
even
usual,
remember.
his usual, I'm sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure he
So-
gave his glasses to someone.
I mean, we had
I
so
think
many
he gave them
awesome
to his
ones.
kid.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, his son was in the audience along with his father, Stu Hart. We did not get confirmation that Bret Hart's mother, Helen, was in the stadium, but we were under the impression she might have because Vince said she saw her somewhere. And we were told that Shawn Michaels' parents were in the building, but we were never shown that on television.
Interesting.
So, Maria, when you first heard that there was an Iron Man match,
I thought
a
there would
match
be,
that's going to be happening for 60 minutes.
I thought there would be swimming, possibly cycling, maybe running
Okay.
involved.
But then you realize that it was going to be a match where a competitor has to get the most decisions, and the decisions came by either by pinfall, submission,
Mm-hmm.
countouts, disqualifications, hurricanes,
Hurricanes. I thought
struck
hurricane
by
season was over.
lightning, earthquake. No, I'm just joking. But the other 4 that I mentioned are the accurate ways for you to win an Iron Man match.
Right.
Did you think at any moment that, spoiler alert, if for some reason you have not watched this match and you're rewatching this podcast, or you're watching this
You
podcast
should
about
rewatch this
rewatching
podcast.
about watching
Do
this
both. Rewatch
again,
and rewatch
but
Mania.
yeah, there are no pinfalls, there are no submissions. This match goes into overtime because we must have a winner.
Mm-hmm.
There must be a decision. We must have a champion either retain
What was the question?
or lose. Did you think that
Oh,
like there would be no type of decisions? Like no one would win, no one would pin, no one would successfully get a pin against somebody, nobody would get disqualified, nobody would get counted out. Did you think that was like something like that would happen? Like Vince or somebody would have said that this is the way the match goes. We're gonna have it a 0-0 tie, and then we'll go into quote unquote overtime.
all of those details. I guess you could say, I shouldn't say that they were lost on me because I was more like interested in the moves. So that's what I was watching.
Okay, so you didn't care.
Yeah, like the specifics and
Yeah, the reason I asked that is because I had mentioned earlier in this podcast that the crowd was very like lethargic and kind of like in and out of it.
Right.
And most of the complaints about this pay-per-view, despite like how good I believe this match is, like storytelling through like in this occasion, it's not like a psychologically good versus bad, like good versus evil type of like the good guy versus the bad guy. This is more of like who can outlast the other. It's more of a test of endurance. And
that's what I thought it was.
Yeah, but the audience there, like if you pay attention to the crowd,
right,
you see a guy in the front row actually yawning at one point, and some people actually get up and leave during the beginning of the match, and then they come back towards the end of the, like not towards the end, but towards the middle of the match.
And I hear what you're saying. To me, it's like attention spans. Some people have an attention span for a short period of time. I mean, lately it seems even shorter. But there were plenty of people that were still interested, and I was curious and interested to see if they could, 1, take it to 60 minutes, 2, do it well where they're not fully gassed. I thought they did a really good job working with each other and pulling off really good moves throughout the 60 minutes that they were wrestling. So I'm definitely a fan of this match. This is one of my favorite matches, and at 60 minutes, I would definitely recommend that you rewatch it. We have some really good moves like Bret Hart clotheslines Shawn Michaels. We had a nice shoulder breaker good pile driver by Bret Hart.
Mm-hmm.
At 28 minutes and 29 seconds, they're still going strong. And I just want to ask you guys, would you consider, because when I was watching it, I'm like, this has to be like one of those matches where you're like, oh, this is part of wrestling history. Like, this is like one of those matches where you're still talking about it. We're still talking about it in 2023. A lot of people are still like fans of this match because it was pretty good. Are you guys fans of this match? Would you consider this part of wrestling history?
I do. I consider it one of my favorite matches, especially from Shawn Michaels. It's definitely one of the ones that I feel is like in his top 5 of matches. This I in my head or in my heart, or however you wear your wrestling fandom at, is the one that cemented my fandom for HBK. This has been building a form for him career wise since WrestleMania 10. 9 was kind of him getting there where he faced off Mr. Perfect. But he had this run here 10 with the ladder match with Razor, 11 with Diesel, and then we have this Iron Man match who we didn't think that somebody would be, or two wrestlers would actually be able to keep an audience
Keep the
entertained.
momentum. Yeah.
And like Vince is all about pushing like the big guys, the big meaty men who like give these like jackknife power bombs or choke slams or tombstone pile drivers or things like that.
So, I mean,
And
even at 16 minutes, we see Bret flip Shawn Michaels out of the ring and he hits his coach, which is, like just part of the story.
yeah,
Pretty cool.
he hits his coach twice. Once when he Bret Hart sends him into the turnbuckle and he does his normal flip
Right.
and he kicks him as he lands, and then the other one where Bret Hart tries to throw Bret Hart towards the steps.
Mm-hmm.
And guess who's in the way again? Jose Lothario. and,
So, I mean, we see Bret hit Shawn with the sharpshooter and we think we get the win, but we don't.
mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I just keep on seeing them going on and nailing these good moves.
Mm-hmm.
Raj, what do you think about this 60-minute Iron Man match?
This was no doubt, this is one of the greatest matches in history. Obviously, like you said, we're still talking about it, so many years later. But the drama unfolded when it's declared a draw and Bret thinks he's won, and he starts walking towards the back, and he's pulled back. He's like, no, wait a minute, the match is not over. Vince then declares that there has to be a winner. But that's where the drama started, because Bret's in his mind, he thinks he's won, and he's like, even me as a viewer, I'm thinking, well, it's a draw, so I guess doesn't Bret retain the title in this case? And not to nitpick, he should have, but Vince did the right thing. There should have been a winner, and they did it for another minute 56 seconds. So.
Yeah, another minute 56 seconds. It doesn't go that long.
And this was a prelude. Don't forget, this is a prelude of their match for Survivor Series in '97. So, in my view, this was like a 2-part storyline here. This is the Iron Man match, but let's not forget, this is only the prelude. Their pinnacle of their both careers, their match that they had to conclude their careers, especially for Bret in WWE, was at Survivor Series at '97 in that infamous screw job. So this was the prelude to that.
Yeah. But I feel like this had a lot of good like technical moves to it. Sure, we got a lot of rest holds or like hugs and like arm wrenches, like rear naked chokeholds, and things like that. But you kind of needed that, not only for like the audience, but you needed to have. This is an Iron Man match, so you have to wear the opponent down. You want to get the most pinfalls, most submissions in 60 seconds. And how else are you going to do that? I mean, if you're going all out with all of the high risk moves that only that only Shawn Michaels is pulling off, because Bret wouldn't actually be doing any of those. He's supposed to be a technical wrestler. So this is actually leaning towards his forte as a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
So for Bret to actually end up losing and like losing it to Shawn, was a pretty big deal. And I felt like usually like when someone loses a championship to somebody, whether it's like a clean victory or like one where the heel cheats and it's like a foreign object is used and things like that, it's called like a cheap win type of deal, like in that instance, or a clean win when it's like a pinfall, things like that. But I feel like since this was an Iron Man match, this kind of like elevated that win a little bit more. Yeah, Brett, I guess you could say they never explained it, that if there's no winner, there's no decisions, that it's a draw, that Brett is gonna retain. So um you kind of have a point, but you really don't, because it's never mentioned, Raj.
Mm.
So that's how I feel like Brett has been building this career since WrestleMania 2 in the company, and he's gotten notable wins. And I feel like because of the length of this match, everything that's been going through this match, it kind of elevates Shawn's win a little bit more than just a normal win would have been able to do.
Okay, so the match, when we talk about wrapping up this match, the match ended shortly when Michaels pins Hart. And I find this to be curious because I've been hearing you guys talk about this for a while, giving him sweet chin music.
Mm-hmm.
So, Raj, before I go into it, do you know what sweet chin music is?
Yeah, and it's Shawn Michaels' signature move, and you know he sells it really good. So his signature move, that's his. He really sells it. It's a good move. It's one of the best moves, I think, or finisher moves that I think we've ever seen. Am I wrong on that?
No, because it's still being used by like a lot of wrestlers to this day. Dolph Ziggler points out as one of them in the company, or was in the company. We have, I think Johnny Gargano uses it. In the company now. Other people in other like companies use it, like the Young Bucks, and
Nobody's done it as good as
Adam
Shawn Michaels
Cole.
does. So
Yeah, I mean, no one
I'll
does
give him
it.
credit for that.
So we're all on the same page. This means when you're doing like a crescent kick or like a side kick,
It's called a super kick.
a super kick.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you remember Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, like that one.
Like Johnny Cage when he does like that little. It's kind of similar to that.
Okay, cool.
So that's that's kind of like supposed to be his kind of equalizer,
Right.
to like wrestlers that are bigger and stronger than him.
Right.
So sweet chin music is because the super kick is supposed to hit him right in the
Finally,
chin.
I kept on hearing them talk about it, Raj, and I'm like, it sounds cool. It sounds interesting. I'm not quite sure what that is.
Yeah, so that's the name of his finisher of the super kick, which he calls sweet chin music.
Nice.
Jose Lothario had one of the dumbest nicknames in wrestling, Super Sock. What the F does that even mean in the context of wrestling?
Is that real?
That's what Raymond is saying. So I guess you could say that he's going to super sock you. I don't know. And another comment here for Shawn's WrestleMania matches, I would put both matches against the Taker, Jericho, Angle, and Flair above this one. Yeah, I would agree with one of the Taker matches, like the last one he had, not like the first one to start that feud, even though they did win a Slammy or whatever the award was for match of the year on that one. But I preferred the second match that ended up like retiring Shawn at that point, because unfortunately he does come back for one of those Saudi pay-per-view matches.
Yes.
But yeah, I prefer the second one more to the first one.
So
well, his Hell in a Cell match against The Undertaker, that was one of the best.
Yeah, we're talking about WrestleMania matches.
Raj. Wow.
I'm just saying,
we can talk about
he was
matches.
mentioning matches,
so rude.
For me, I always gotta go off into somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's what we're here
Absolutely.
for.
I mean, that's the whole thing. Like we're introducing wrestling to Maria. It's a good point that you're bringing out that the Hell in a Cell with the Undertaker is a good match, but at
I,
this point in time, we were just referring to WrestleMania
I'm here to take
matches.
in all the wrestling. And
Yeah.
since I've been watching WrestleManias, I find myself watching wrestle bios too. So one of the wrestling bios that I was watching was actually before we talk about the end of match 6 and the 60-minute match
Mhm.
was when Hulk was talking about doing like a scoop slam on Andre. I know you were talking about Andre earlier.
Mhm.
And he actually said that he like tore his 2 biceps and a muscle in his back and he had to keep on wrestling. So I
I
know
don't know how much that's true.
we're talking, and he showed it too because his arm, like the texture in his arm, just looks a little weird, a little different. So that was pretty
Okay.
interesting to hear.
I have to watch that interview because there's some things that Hulk Hogan does get right, but there's also some things that he doesn't get right, and he tends to exaggerate them.
Yeah, so if you're talking to the people that are listening right now or watching, would you recommend that they rewatch this match?
I know I definitely recommend it, not only because of how this match shapes wrestling, not wrestling, but the WWE going forward, because this is the transition of us not having like another champion that's like 7 foot tall, weighs 300 plus pounds, and is able to like destroy somebody with one chop. Because after this, it's like kind of like not normal size, but it's not like superhuman, like superhero type of physiques that we see out there.
And Raj, what do you think about this? Would you
Yeah, this
recommend that
this
somebody
is if
watch
you're
this
if you
60-minute
love
match?
technical wrestling, this was the match for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're into Jimmy Superfly Snuka Hop flying off the cage, then this was not for you. But if you're a technical type of guy, wrestling type of guy, this was the match for you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
So
pardon the non-WrestleMania reference, Togi.
that's okay. I mean, I don't mean to sound like combative to you, Raj. I was just pointing out that Raymond was just pretty much just pointing out WrestleMania matches, and like as far as WrestleMania matches that is in HBK's kind of like book of people that I like he's wrestled and that are memorable to me. I agree with one of the Taker matches, which was the second Taker match, that one match that he had with Jericho and Angle and Flair. And so
So I have to ask,
go
because I
ahead.
know what my favorite matches were. Raj, what were your favorite matches from this WrestleMania?
I'd have to be this one. This was the reason you bought the pay per view. You know, to watch this 60-minute marathon. You know, so this was the match that you paid to see, and you got your money's worth off of it, just off of the 60 minutes. So
Yeah, as much as like the people in the audience might have looked bored, I agree with Roger that
What were your favorite
my
matches from
favorite
this?
matches is this one, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Being an HBK Mark fan of this, I also recommend the first match, which is the Owen versus Davy Boy and Vader,
Mm-hmm.
just because we get a glimpse of what Vader can do.
Right.
He's just like Bam Bam Bigelow, a big man who can move, and then he does like that Vader bomb and things like that.
Okay.
And we also see another big man that's able to move, not only Yokozuna, but Ahmed Johnson, even though he has been proven to be, as Raymond put out, very dangerous in some of his matches that he had throughout his career. He was very impressive in here, and I can see why they kind of push him a little bit. But even though he's getting a push, because of backstage politics that Ahmed Johnson isn't happy with, he ends up leaving the company.
Mm.
Other than that, I might have been able to recommend the Stone Cold and Savio Vega, but I was just so turned off by the constant interruption of Roddy Piper calling Vince and Vince paying more attention to selling Roddy Piper calling in and chasing down Goldust than actually calling the match of Savio Vega and Stone Cold.
Okay. Well, with that, my favorite matches, despite all the challenges or the interruptions, was match 3. So Stone Cold Steve Austin with Ted DiBiase. He defeated Savio Vega by technical knockout, singles match, 10 minutes and 5 seconds. Match 4 with the Ultimate Warrior, although brief, defeated Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley with Sable by pinfall singles. Match was a total of 1 minute and 39 seconds. And then, like we all said, match 6, Shawn Michaels with Jose Lothario. His coach defeated Bret Hart 1-0 by pinfall and sudden death overtime.
Right.
For our first ever 60-minute Iron Man match for the WWF Championship. So that was those were my favorite 3 matches.
So you have 3 favorite matches. Yep. I had 2. I had 1 favorite match and 1 match I recommended. And Raj had 1 favorite match, which was the Iron Man match.
Yeah, so like the last WrestleMania was full of celebrity appearances. We had Jenny McCarthy. Who else do we have? Pamela Anderson.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Also, what's the other actor's name? I can't think of
We had Nick Turturro.
Nick Turturro. How turtly awesome. How could I forget about him? So with this WrestleMania, it was the first non-WWE celeb appearance. So we had no celeb appearances for this one.
Right.
So that was pretty interesting. We had a lackluster intro. So this wasn't one of my favorite.
No, this seemed like a WrestleMania that Vince just put together last minute.
It did.
They tried to make it a movie theme, sort of, and it just no celebrities, it made no sense.
Yeah, the poster kind of looks like a 20th Century Fox, which is now owned by Disney, so they're just known as 20th Century, I believe. So I kind of like that, and like it's hard for you to make it like a Hollywood movie when you're in Anaheim. You're not in LA or in Hollywood.
So and when you don't give us 1 celebrity.
Yeah. So before we head off here, Raj, I wanted to go ahead and point out that we will be having a giveaway here. Our first ever giveaway to our subscribers. So if you're a YouTube subscriber and you comment on this live stream or after it goes on our YouTube page, you will be entered to win this WrestleMania themed Funko Pop of Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, the first ever main event winners of WrestleMania 1. Like I said, this is open to our YouTube subscribers. All you have to do is comment on this live stream, and you will be entered. You have a week. Winners will be announced next Friday. Raymond, I'm not sure why Mr. T is gray. That's probably the way he looks through all the plastic and the filters here, maybe, or the way the light is hitting him. But if you would be interested in winning that Funko Pop that we have here of the WrestleMania 1 main event winners of Mr. T and Hulk Hogan, you would have to subscribe to our YouTube channel and just make a comment about who your favorite match was, who your favorite wrestler is. It could be about anything, and you would be entered, and I will announce those winners next week.
Who will win?
Yeah. Oh, Raymond wants to point out one more thing before we go off. He did not like the whole boyhood dream angle. Yeah, I did not like that either, Raymond.
You didn't like when the announcer said the boyhood dream has come true for Shawn Michaels?
No, I did not like that because if they're saying that he had this dream when he was 12 and now I think he's 30 at this time, I don't think the WWF has been has been around for that long. It probably would have been like during Vince's senior run as in the WWF that Shawn would have to have this dream. So.
And then if we want to connect with Raj on any of your socials or anything like that, Raj.
Raj, you want people to reach out to you and
Twitter,
tell you
or
like
X.
get your opinions on any type of wrestling. Are you watching anything current?
I watch all of the classic stuff on Peacock.
Okay, so you just
I don't get
watch
a chance to watch a lot of AEW these days,
or WWE.
or WWE, for that matter.
Okay.
When they do something interesting, I'll be right back there with them.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I tuned in a little bit for the John Cena, and who's Uso's cousin? I can't think of his name.
Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns. I don't think it was somebody else. So like when I see people like that, I'll tune in, but I can't. I like the old school wrestling just a little bit more. So
Yeah. Oh, so wrapping this up, please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Revisiting the Mania, at all of our socials at Revisiting the Mania on X, Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, our Facebook page at Revisiting Mania. And at this point in time,
I'm gonna wrap it up by saying, like Bret Hart said, I am and I always will be the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
all right, deuces, everybody. Thanks for joining.